Hi, and welcome back to Buzzwords. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook. Or no, it's not on Facebook. On YouTube and or Spotify. Oh, it is on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah. Do you tune in on Facebook, though? I don't think you tune
I think
in.
I tune out on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Facebook.
Something's happening there.
Yeah. So like and subscribe on all of those things.
Please.
Yeah.
Today in studio, we have somebody near and dear to Michael and I's heart. Michael's worked for him before. Been on his W-2 payroll.
Yes.
I consequently have had 4 children with his sister. We have today Mr. Jalen Carlson. Poulsbo, Washington, ex-owner Viking Feed. Or are you still considered owner of Viking Feed? Like, do you call yourself the owner
I don't
of Viking
know the answer
Feed?
to that. Probably X. Hopefully X.
The guy who drove it into the ground.
Yeah.
And then owner of Farm Hands.
I lit the match and walked away. It's still burning.
That is awesome.
The fire is burning.
So now you're just doing Farm Hands LLC. Viking Feed
Yeah.
is in the hands of someone else or just gone?
Yeah. Oh, gone. Yeah.
Okay, so that I haven't even driven by the building. It's like there's nothing there
Oh,
now.
it's a pot processor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So not
I'm not affiliated with that.
Not a sponsor.
No, not a sponsor.
Viking weed.
No, I could talk to them though. We're on fairly good terms. I could talk to them if you guys are looking for sponsors.
I'm sure they use propane, don't they?
Yeah.
They're using Michael's. They're using Michael's fuel.
Yeah, probably without even asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. You got to go talk to them.
Yeah.
Or I got to go talk to them. We'll see.
Yeah.
One of the two. So Jay, how are you doing this morning? What's going on, man?
I'm good this morning. Yeah, this was a welcome break to whatever else I'm supposed to get done today. I haven't allowed myself to go there yet, but yeah, the calm before the storm.
So for the people listening, Jay is you are an entrepreneur. Adam didn't give you your intro. Didn't get.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to
father, entrepreneur,
married a sister joke.
Hard worker,
All I had today.
workout guru.
Workout guru?
Not for several decades. Yeah.
Well, let's be clear though.
Several decades.
You are
No,
stacked more than us because you swing hammers all day.
Oh yes, it's not for working out, just from good genes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good genetics.
Good genes.
Yeah. And 5 children now
Yep.
building a house in Eglon
Yeah.
from, well, you guys are technically from Bellingham, so, right?
I am. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever been to Bellingham.
Wasn't that where, like, really?
What's in
Wait a
Bellingham?
minute. What's my wife telling me?
I don't know.
No, because you guys were.
Maybe she was born there.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. My wife was born
Yeah.
there. And then you maybe were in Olympia.
Yeah.
Which is
I
worse.
Think, yeah. It is worse. Yeah. It is worse. Because I don't know what's in Bellingham. I know exactly what's in Olympia.
A whole lot of nope.
Yeah. It's not even Christian nope. Not even holy nopes. Just full nope.
Full nope.
And then moving up here to Poulsbo and sticking around. So
far. And they haven't run me out of town yet.
yeah. What's on the horizon, man? Like what's Farm Hands LLC up to? What are you guys doing?
Right now we're doing a lot of things that Michael has done with us before, but a couple of interesting projects. We're building today a water feature that's pretty sweet. It's a very large water feature, and I have several very, very old broken pieces of equipment that are joining the fleet. Usually, people purge this equipment and then I buy it and then spend way too much time and money trying to make it functional.
What kind
Jay's
of equipment?
ragtag.
One of them is a very large rough terrain forklift because
cool.
I have rough terrain.
Like with the
So-
like with the 4 wheels that articulate together?
No,
okay.
so it is a this is going to be a local reference, but have you gone through Shelton towards Olympia?
Yes.
And on the left-hand side
For
by
those
the
of you
tractor
living in
dealership,
Dubai and listening in.
by the railroad, there's a big orange Champion forklift there with
Yeah.
big tractor tires. It's that.
You're buying that.
Not that. It's that same
Oh,
machine,
okay.
but
All right.
That
I
one's
was
still there.
like, dude, I know
no,
exactly
I
what
wouldn't
you're
want
talking
to
about.
rob Shelton of their seen their
Their treasure.
their landmarks.
Their mascot.
Yes.
You come and see a piece of equipment, you know you're home.
Yes.
You know you're here.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So buying brand new is overrated, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I've never done it. I've never considered it.
What's the name of your welding company? You're welding too.
Yeah, it's
You're,
all
like,
it's
officially
all farm
welding.
hands. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we do about half fabrication and half. I just broadened my scope to like external or exterior construction. So decks, fences, cages. Yeah.
Is there? I'm sure there's high demand for it, but do you feel like you're like always backed up with projects?
Most of the time, there's lulls, but yeah, most of the time it seems
But
like
you'd be worried if you weren't backed up, probably. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, December every year, I'm kind of like, well, I hope people start spending money.
How do I sign up for this EBT card?
Yeah, exactly. every December is a little bit of a nail biter.
Yeah. You just gotta start throwing in like, hey, we
Convenient that's Christmas time.
Yeah.
Well. Ooh, sorry, kids.
Yeah. Well, I save all of my like
December
family
again.
stuff
Yeah.
and vacation and
For the
personal
middle,
projects
for the middle of winter.
because I assume that there will be no work. And then they, compounds because there is no work, but then I'm also spending all of my money and not looking for work because I'm busy with other things. So, yeah.
How many employees do you have now?
There's just three of us. So I have Ron, who Michael,
I
is
love
my
Ron.
foreman.
We should have
and
Ron on, by the way, because
Ron's fantastic.
Yeah, Ron has Kitsap in his blood.
Ron has so many things in his blood. Ron's blood is full of...
Kitsap in his blood, not blood on Kitsap.
Both.
Yeah.
Both, dude.
He has many things in his blood, and his blood's on many things.
Yeah.
And many people's blood is on him.
Yeah.
Dude. I love Ron.
Yeah, that would be a good interview.
So you got Ron as your foreman, and you said two.
And
two
then
of those.
I have a young man named Waylon, who is our welder and grunt worker. So yeah, but I am losing him soon. So if there's
because of
anyone
his
who
welding skill?
wants to do a lot of work and make very little money out there, you can reach me on my website.
Farm Hands.
Reach out to Jay.
Yeah.
No money. That's funny.
Yeah.
So, I, having worked for you for a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah. Two at least, I feel like.
Yeah, I came to work for you in 2020, 2021.
God, man,
Something like
dates
that.
have no meaning to me.
Yeah.
Time has no meaning.
Especially
So,
during the lockdowns.
You worked for him during the lockdowns?
yes.
Yeah, I left the hospital during the
That's
lockdowns.
right. That's right.
Because I had already had
Yes.
COVID twice by the time they were demanding that I take the shot. And then it was something like, hey, if you don't take the shot, you'll probably get fired. So I was like, well, I should look for work then. And then you said that I could come work for you. And then they were like, actually, you don't have to take the shot and we won't fire you. And I was like, well, this got weird. So
Yeah, that's a tough relationship to rebound.
yeah, this got weird. So I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And then that was a really, really important time for me, for my life, because I was newly married and I was just like, I'm not ashamed to admit this, but I know that there are many people who would have learned this lesson way earlier in life than their 30s. But yeah, like at 30, 31, it was kind of like when the lockdowns hit and I was deemed, whatchamacallit,
Essentially.
essential.
Deplorable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Both. Deplorable. And I got to go to work. I was like, oh man, having stood on the precipice of not being able to work, I was like, okay, I value work all of a sudden. Now I get it. Now I really understand the value of having a healthy work ethic and enjoying going to work and like valuing having a job. And that was right when I was like, but I'm leaving the hospital, going to go work for Jay. And I had never done like pure manual labor like that for a job. It was such a good time. It was such a good time. I have lost so much muscle mass since I stopped working for you.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Mary lets me know. She's like, "You're skinny. You're skinny again." Yeah. I remember.
She come up to you and do this. And be like,
yeah, she does.
Dang it.
No, she doesn't do that. She doesn't.
Yeah, she does.
Feel self-conscious. Yeah, she wants to, but she doesn't. Yeah, I that was a really, and it was a great experience working for you, because you and I started working for you at just the right time in my life, where I suddenly appreciated that, knowing that I was going to be working somewhere the next day, and knowing that that's something that I always needed to hold in place in my life. And then winter rolled around and we were working on fencing or some barn or something like that, and it snowed and it was really, really cold and icy out, and I was like, well, we're staying home for this. I would wake up, I was like, oh, Jay's not going to have us work in this, like dig in this ground. And then, but I was like, I'm going to wait for him to text me to call me off, I guess. I'm not going to call him and say, we're not working today, right? So I was like, getting ready, putting on my gear, and I was like, waiting for you to call me anytime now. And you never did. And I showed up for work. And you were like, hey, we're going to go into the woods and dig holes and make a fence.
In the literal snow.
In the snow.
Frozen.
And I was like, this is not something that people do. Like, I don't do this. This is something that they did in the Middle Ages because they were going to get killed if they didn't do it or something. But then I dug my first hole in the winter and got warm, and I was like, oh, okay, men can work through that.
I recently did a job up on where was it? Lake Cushman, and I was helping dig the ditch for gas line along this house. And I guess I had never, I've worked in the snow and the cold, but we were high enough that the ground, it was frozen like 12 inches down, dude. And so it's like, no problem. I got the shovel off the truck and started working to kind of clear out some of the dirt in this ditch, and it was just like clink. So that I, putting a little more force into it and then putting my whole weight on it. And I was like, dude, like we need the breaker bar to even move this much dirt.
Digging is one of those jobs that most people associate with a shovel. And that's just proof that you have not really dug. It's like if you think a shovel is the ultimate digging tool, that's gardening. Is what
that's gardening. Shovel comes in later.
Yeah, that big 6-foot breaker bar. That thing's
the shovel's like the toothpick
worth its weight in gold.
You clean the teeth of the job with.
That's good. That's good.
So now you kind of became. Did you envision yourself as an entrepreneur before you were actually starting your own businesses and getting all of that started, or did it kind of just things evolve naturally?
No, I've never envisioned myself really
in any way.
So it's very much.
He's very careful.
I'm an evolutionary character for sure. It's too frightening to.
But at this point, it's like just part of who you are. You're an entrepreneur.
I suppose so. I don't think I'm as much an entrepreneur as I am I work all the time on something.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was going to be me. I didn't think I was going to end up being one of those like old guys that always has a project of some kind, has a boat or a car or a barn or a ditch that he doesn't need but is still working on. It's definitely going to be me. And so it's more, if I'm going to be doing those things anyway, I might as well get paid for it. So, but I have found that the building of a business or an enterprise is not what thrills me nearly as much as the work itself. So I think that definitely sets entrepreneurs apart, is that they are, the thrill of building.
So you're just a laborer that couldn't get hired.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That when no one will have you, you have to work for yourself. So
that is
that doesn't make
beautiful route to business ownership. Though.
Yes,
that's pretty poetic.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and this started for you because I think a lot of people, especially young men, we talked about this with Eric Mahler last week, and just when
You know Eric?
Cafe Casino owner.
No, I don't.
You'd love him.
Yeah.
I already do.
Yeah, he's cool. You're drinking his coffee right now.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, Eric roasted it.
Thank you, Eric.
We were talking about maturity and when guys versus girls potentially come of age and get cooked, basically. We said 25 years old, right?
Oh, right.
No,
Okay, yeah. When you're mature.
Yeah.
When you've matured.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but with Jalen, as long as I've known him, because I think I started, Jessica and I, you were like 16, 17, something like that. I think when Jess and I got married.
Yeah, I think she's 2 years older than me.
Okay, so
I think.
Yeah, but then we
That means I don't know how old either of us are.
yeah, she just turned 34 in December.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but I mean, even before that, because I remember you were driving the BMW when I first really got to know you, and then like it seems like you just came of age.
Was that was the defining factor? You didn't.
Well,
I was just the brother,
that was like
the
your
brother with the
childish. I'm like,
BMW.
all right, Jalen's cool, and he knows he's cool. He's driving this BMW.
Listen, that's
high
the
school.
coolest that I have ever
And-
been.
And then
I don't
it's like-
envision myself in the future, but I envision me in that BMW all the time.
So you're in high school, and it's like, and then you went to work for, I mean, unbeknownst to you, your future father-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, in high school, you were going over to Monroe Farm and Feed?
Yeah, so I went over there and goofed off with my now brother-in-law when I was 9-10 years old. And we'd get $5 for sweeping the floor and making much larger messes than we cleaned up, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so a long time ago was when that kind of started.
But it's like, I think there's so many young guys that, I mean, I'm still trying to find myself. I'm almost 35. And it's like, but I feel like you kind of like found your thing at like 17 years old, and you've been doing it for like 14 years now, 15 years, like pretty much the same thing. And you're content. It seems like you're content, and you always have been, which you just don't see that in a lot of guys these days. You see a lot of discord as they're trying to figure out what they're going to be doing with their life, and you just kind of jumped right into it at like 17 years old, and like I feel like you like matured like 17, 18 years old, and all of a sudden like you're the same Jalen then as I feel you are now. You're like an old soul from like day one, basically. So it's very interesting to see you progress from working with your father-in-law at the feed store to owning your own feed store to now
To burning it down.
To burning
that down. But I mean, you were doing the Farm Hands stuff pretty much kind of through your feed store before it officially became Farm Hands LLC. So, but yeah, dude, you're just been an old soul as long as I've known you.
Yeah, you're completely wrong on that.
Sorry. Outsider looking
I am still trying to find myself, or I'm still finding myself. I don't know if I'm trying. Maybe that's the difference. You give up after a while, and God takes over, and just like, okay, let me find you.
Yeah.
You'll be lost forever otherwise. But no, I do recognize that. He set me on a path early that was a different path than, anyone else. It wasn't even really a similar path to a lot of people. And I feel like I've done a lot of different things over those years, but it's all, very connected and very unintentional. But it is interesting to me as well to look back and see where those connections started happening, and how much that early experience and whatnot affected what I'm doing even tomorrow. So but as far as what I do on the daily, I think the only thing that hasn't changed is it's always been physical, and it's always been solving problems, or I hated it. I've done a couple of things that were not problem solving, a couple of things that were just managing situations or or continuing, a situation, which is, the retail side of things was just not, I don't know. I may do that again, but I hope not. And then for a little while I was a fitness trainer, and that was similar in that, kind of, I liked the activity, but by the 500th session, you're kind of like, what am I doing?
Didn't Rachel do that for
Yeah.
a while too?
Yeah. So we both did that right around the time that we got married. That's what we were both doing. And then it kind of evolved away from that.
Down there, that was off Barber Cutoff Road in Kingston? Were you guys like down there?
So we've worked at quite a few different gyms. So each of us have been. It's a pretty, at least my experience was, it's a pretty like light on your feet industry. So we worked at 5 or 6 different places over here, and a couple places on the other side of the water. But yeah, just all. They're all the same. You've been in one gym. You've been in most of them. So
cool.
Yeah, very uninteresting part of my life.
I don't know. You probably met some pretty interesting people trying to get swole, get fit.
Some real fatty bombaddies.
Not really. No, I think that is one of the consistent truths about gyms, is that no one there is interesting at all, and they're trying to be. They're trying to be.
Yes. Yeah. I think a good gym has a smoothie bar. My favorite gyms have like a really good like smoothie bar up front. Those are the ones that stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you are somehow making it about the food that you're trying to get rid of, then it's much more interesting. If you go into one of those sterile gyms where nobody eats ever, and you just chug gallons and gallons of water, and wear the little like
Singlets?
Sweat things, singlets too. Yeah, I actually have not worked in a singlet gym, but that would probably be a lot more interesting than the gyms that I have worked in.
That's my dream in jiu-jitsu, is I get to the point where I can confidently walk in with a singlet and just like take everything off with just the singlet on. And just...
I was unaware that you weren't at that point. I've been operating under the assumption that you are full singlet confidence.
I saw
singletier
recently. I saw a Hello Kitty singlet, and that's my.
I don't
goal.
even know what we're talking about. What is a singlet?
Like in wrestling, like they're like the spandex little suit things they wear. With
it's a man leotard.
It is a man leotard.
Right.
It's a
Right.
man
It's
I don't know
like
how I know what a
it's like
leotard is,
what's her
but-
name wore in that beach show.
Are you talking about
Probably.
a women's swimsuit? Is that
Yeah.
It is a women's
What's her name?
swimsuit with like
beach set?
Pamela
on the
Anderson
bottom.
in
That would be called a single piece women's swimsuit.
similar to Adam's singlet.
Similar, except mine go down the thighs.
Yeah, are you sure that your Hello Kitty
just
singlet
a
was
little
not a Hello Kitty swimsuit?
I'm actually just wearing women's swimwear.
That's a level up in confidence. That's beyond singlet
That is.
confidence there.
They do that jiu-jitsu over in Seattle, not over here.
Yeah, that's an East Side thing.
Down in Olympia, back down.
Yeah,
in Olympia.
it's just that's a nope for me.
That's a nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know what we were talking about before singlets, but
How awesome Jalen is.
Yeah, how awesome Jalen is. It was helpful when I was working for you. It was helpful to see that. Also, there are other. Your mindset when it comes to work is so different than mine. It's so different than mine. I knew that starting your own business is something that people do because there are businesses out there and somebody must have started them. But I never really. I don't know if I know anybody else who owns there. Well, I know Eric now. There are a few people, but I think that your mindset when it comes to work and making a living and taking care of your family is unique. And I certainly am not going to talk about it as if I fully understand it, but it definitely is different than mine. My assumption has always been the assumption that either I give into or the assumption that I need to push back on from time to time is that I need to get hired by somebody so they can pay me money. And that's how I'm going to get by. And I don't think that that's uncommon. And I don't think that you're necessarily an antithesis to that. It's not like you're a 180 against that. But I like, the way you described yourself was I just needed to work a certain kind of thing. And so I created that work for myself. And that's a mindset that I think a lot of younger men and women, especially younger men, could use to learn about and understand that you can kind of do whatever you want and decide to get paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something too that it's becoming more common with a generation coming after us. There's definitely, the young people that work for me are much more likely to have gigs or skills that they freelance with that turn into businesses than we were. At least my parents were not really, they didn't talk about people being business owners as a future, really. And I think that society wasn't really talking about that. It was, it was college. It was, sometimes even just learning like a tech, skill, learn to program, learn to do graphic design or something like that, and then go get hired by someone. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, but nobody offered. So I was,
he's been digging ditches ever since.
The only offers I've ever gotten were temporary, and so and by a person, not a business. And so I was like, okay, this person's offering me money to come and do this thing, just like a real job. But it ends after today or after Tuesday. And so then I have to go find someone else that will do the same thing. And that's becomes a business, when you find many, many people offering short-term employment for a specific result, not a task or a position, but a result. And I think that is, it's not for everyone, but it's certainly a good option. Especially when no one wants to hire you. So, but for a long-term period. So you'll find that, if you work with business owners, as I know both of you do, that many of these people, you're like, well, yeah, I can see why you don't work for anyone. So, and interacting with other business owners, like, yes, no one wanted to hire you either, did they? So.
Yeah, well, no, not awkward silence. I just want to hear. I just want to hear more. Do you have, when you envision your sons getting their first jobs, what are you going to be teaching them?
Some of my sons already have jobs. I made sure of that.
Well, how old is your oldest?
9.
That's awesome.
No, but.
He'll be back about 4:30
what's
this
the
evening.
right.
What do you want to instill in Tommy, when it comes to work? How do you want him to envision it and understand it?
I think first of all, I want him to understand that nothing's worth doing unless it's what Christ would have him do, unless it's part of Christ turning him into something, which work does, just like marriage does, just like friendship does, just like other challenges do. Work's one of those things, especially for men. I'm sure I'll be canceled off of your podcast for saying that there's a difference, but men are a call to action creature. And work is a call to action, especially when there's no one to fight. That's what men do when there's no one to fight. We work.
Right.
And so, instead of donning our singlets and going off to war, we pick up a hammer and we go break rocks.
Yes.
And that changes you. And if you're not doing it for that purpose, then it's not worth doing. And so, or if you're not doing it, at least partially, because that's how your king changes your character and develops your spirit, then you're certainly missing out on the main reason for work. And so that's, I think, what I would love for him to take away. I don't know if I can instill that. I think I'm trying to instill that in me. And if he sees that and decides to take that on, then I will be absolutely thrilled. So
that is the broad description of your approach. But you're definitely a detail-oriented person as well, because you can't, like, what I'm hearing is that you have sort of a vision of work generally, like a broad understanding of it, and that understanding you're hoping to instill in your son. But you're also like detail oriented. I know that from working with you, because the projects that you do are incredibly detail oriented. If you don't have every detail worked out from beginning to end, at least how it could go, maybe not, you always have to adjust, but having a specific understanding of the steps and everything. I guess for me, I'm always assuming that when I am in doubt of what I'm supposed to do next, or when I'm in doubt of how I'm supposed to do whatever's next, my assumption is that there's a right way to do this, and I don't know what it is, and I gotta either like stumble across, like do it basically get through this by accident, or find somebody who's done it before, and get to the end of this project or this hurdle, whatever it is. But I guess is Tommy very different than you?
Yeah, he's probably, from an outsider's perspective, more similar to me than he is different. And I don't know if that's a blessing or not, to have the first of your fruit be so much like you. But yeah, he's pretty similar in a lot of ways. Better, I think. He's his 2.0 is going to be better. He's already better than I was at that age. So, I mean, at this point, excuse me, at this point, I'm just thrilled that, like, he's obviously an improvement on 9-year-old me. So I can't really be disappointed with that. Yeah, I'm not really that worried about, like you're talking about, the detailed side of and the intentionality of each step in a task, and the skills to solve a problem or to persevere against an obstacle. Those, I think, are either naturally, ingrained in a person's character, or they're learned by proximity and exposure to other people that do that. I think oftentimes if you take something like that, that's like either God gives someone or God teaches through the exposure of other men, if you try to take that and put it in a pill and shove it down your kid's throat, it'll often have the reverse effect. And so, like, what that means to feed it to your kid, is a different discussion, like, where that line is. But I think I'm very grateful that with Tom, that's not going to be necessary. That's something that he's very clearly has a double portion of. So I'm incredibly blessed.
He
by
definitely
that.
has a good example, though, because kind of like what Michael was saying with just being able to see details. I mean, it seems like with everything I've ever, like, projects that I've ever seen you do, it's always interesting that kind of at the beginning of the project, there's a lot of doubt from people around you. Like when you moved your parents, I just recently saw you move their back deck, and you put that beam across the deck, and not to knock, this is to say that I would have never thought of that, because I'm like looking at it and I'm like, like, this is like, I think your dad too, we were just like, well, I hope this works out, but like 9.9 times out of 10, Jalen's right. and you can see that end in the way I don't think other people can in a lot of instances, and the steps to get to a lot of these things. And I don't have very many people in my life where I can say like, well, whatever this person said, they're probably right, and I'm just wrong. And you're definitely one of them in my life where it's like, Jalen, and not to like boost your ego or anything. I'm just saying,
It's happening.
Like, you're usually right about stuff, especially like project style stuff. It's like,
But not what makes a good donut.
Yeah, dude.
How much time do we have?
For anybody who's listening, Jalen has been wrong about donuts as
Yeah.
long as I've known
For as
him.
long as
Let's
we've
just start-
talked
What a good
about
donut
donuts.
is, what a bad donut is.
Jalen would prefer going to Safeway to get a maple bar over Sly's Donuts in Paulsbo to get a maple bar.
Yeah, listen, this is
In this area, he is a weak
complete
man.
twisting and mischaracterization of the truth.
We're doing it to your faces.
And
Let-
so I don't know if you guys are going to put some sort of disclaimer, community
the
note
record
on
show.
this podcast. But yeah, so I love the example of the deck project, which I don't know if this has come out in another podcast, but Adam is married to my sister and also lives next door to my parents, who hire me to do various things.
Everything.
And one of the things was to relocate a 14 by 40 foot deck. And
You said that with the deadest eyes.
because they want something else there, but they don't want to lose the deck. And so, I myself, as these projects unfold, because many of the things that I do, it's not just that no one would hire me to fill a position in perpetuity, but also the jobs, the gigs that I do get hired for are things that other people won't do. And so that's oftentimes how business opportunities present. It's like, well, there's a whole list of services or tasks out here that other people don't want to do or can't do, and I can or will. And so that basically part of taking that type of work, you develop a thick skin to chaos, and you learn general principles that help you recover from catastrophic situations. And so, when and also you develop a confidence to do things in a way that seem impossible to other people or even seem impossible to you, but have a chance of working out, and you just make sure that chance is what happens. I'm very willing to fail in certain situations, so that makes harebrained things possible when you're willing to fail.
So like, what was the decision making process? So like when they were like, yeah, move this big deck, and you show up. When did you decide I'm going to put a giant I-beam on this deck and move it with 2 excavators versus just building a new frame and moving all of the decking over onto the new frame?
It was as soon as that was the other option. As soon as they were like, hey, can you take out every single one of these 7,000 screws and all of these boards that were cut exactly to fit where they go and put them all back the same way?
So the better
in another
option
spot, and I said no, I will not. I will not even consider whether or not I can, but I will not.
And moving the whole thing. I mean, it was impressive to watch you guys move that with 2 pieces of heavy equipment.
I don't know if impressive is the right word.
Oh no, it was impressive.
But
well, when you guys first started like messing with it, and it wouldn't detach from the house. I remember standing there like, oh boy, and then it happened, and I was like, Jalen was right.
Well, I think were you there when catastrophe fell and it all crashed?
Oh, no.
Were you gone for that?
I saw it when you were finally putting it in place. I saw it at the beginning.
So between when you left and came back, the entire thing fell apart and crashed on the ground.
You're like destroying my point right now.
Yeah. And yeah, so but that was, that was an option. Like that was a likelihood in what we were trying to accomplish. And so, it oftentimes when you're doing something that seems like either impossible or very, very implausible, that's a likelihood, is that catastrophe will fall. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, is this recoverable if that happens or when it happens? And so... yeah, so I mean, it's moved, and it happened in one piece, and it happened quickly and much cheaper than rebuilding from scratch or taking apart piecemeal.
And I think that's what I mean. You and your company versus what probably so many other contractors that would have showed up to bid that job would have just probably built a frame and either moved it or just said, no, you just got to scrap all that and we'll just build a brand new one versus you thought outside that box.
Yeah. To be fair, I wouldn't have done it for anyone else. Okay. So that, you know, if some regular customer that's not, you know, that can't, that's not forced to own me through blood when it fails.
Your parents were
I would never even consider that. Okay. So so they're great for that because I do tons of things for them I would never do for anyone else.
Yeah. And then you can say now you specialize in it and utilize it and
yeah. I mean, if we specialize in anything,
we've done this before.
It's things that shouldn't be done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
There's a something that I learned about myself while working with you that I have used as a metaphor at least 5 times in different situations.
5.
Yeah, something like that. It is.
It's a favorite metaphor.
It's a favorite metaphor of mine now. Yeah. For self introspection and trying to understand myself. I remember we were building the fence at and it was in the woods, and we finally got to a straightaway, and it was time to dig holes, dump a bunch of concrete in the holes, and put the fence posts in there. Mm-hmm. And you had like 3 conversations with me trying to get me to just do one of those things instead of all 3 at once. Mm. So my assumption was that you dig a hole, you mix the concrete, you put the concrete in, and then you put the post in, then you move to the next hole. Mm-hmm. And that's just how I like, you know, that's something that that's how my brain works. Mm-hmm. And you had to come alongside me while we were doing that and be like, I just need you to do the holes for a while. Try to get 10 holes. Yeah. And then do the concrete in all those holes. Yeah. And then put the post in. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Of course. And then I got to the next hole. And I was like, just dig the hole, put the concrete in, put the post in. And you came back and you were like, no, like just... And but that has been a metaphor in my life for like efficiency, you know, and it's something that I did not learn that day because I couldn't get it through my head still. And
I remember that you didn't.
Even when I did just finally get around, okay, I'm just digging the holes. I dug them like crooked, kind of, you know, I just couldn't get them.
But straighter,
I guess. Yeah. But that has been it was humbling, but it's also been like applicable in so many different areas of my life, you know, trying to understand how I process things. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at the time it was kind of like just embarrassing that I couldn't, you know, that I got to figure this out and get this done. And, you know, I'm taking so much longer to get this fence made for Jay. But it was really, I think you are definitely... And I don't know, maybe this is one of the reasons why you were briefly drawn to the fitness thing, where you were helping people with that. I wonder how much of your time spent in that and what was drawing you to that, maybe not on purpose, but maybe just kind of naturally drawn to coaching people and kind of helping people see how to get over their individual hurdles, you know, and pinpointing, okay, this person is having a hard time, you know, getting from A to Z, and I can see, you know, I can kind of help them and figure out what's going wrong in between A and Z. And I know that you had that conversation with me many times. Part of it was you were paying me to get something done, so you really needed me to figure it out. But you're also very good at it. You're also very good at helping people get from A to B and figure out, you know, what's causing them to get from A to Z slowly. What are the hiccups? You probably do that for yourself a lot as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the only thing that makes me able to do it for other people or with other people is because that's how, you know, obviously early in life, your parents do that. And then for a very brief stint in my life, you know, employers or mentors did that. And then after a while, you look around and in some cases, this is definitely the case for me, you look around and people have stopped telling you, how to do things or what to do. But you still don't know how to do things. And so you try it and it doesn't work. And you look at how you did it and you're like, okay, I guess something about how I did it has to change. And then you start doing that faster and faster. And you're able to break down and analyze how things were done, better and better. And I think that does translate to helping other people do it. I think a big part of it is impatience, and so if the people around me are not learning the best way to speed up my goal, which is, of course, completing the project and getting paid, is to make them learn quickly. So, I don't think I'm a great coach or teacher. But I think I'm very familiar with what scenarios people are able to learn in, and throwing people to the sharks is a popular way of, describing a certain method for teaching people. And I don't agree with that. But, if people need to swim with sharks, as part of their job, then throw them in with the dolphins pretty quick,
for a while,
I think, and so
to start them off.
Yeah, I mean, don't put them in a pen with puppies if they're going to be swimming with sharks as their job. So find what is that learning environment look like to very quickly get you acclimated to what needs to happen. And I think that is just something that, I've learned by needing to do it for myself. And so, one of the things that I love to do is welding. That's one of my favorite parts of our business is welding and fabricating things out of metal. And I taught myself to weld just so that I could work on my own stuff. And it created, I had no idea it would turn into a sellable skill, but I wanted to be able to fix my equipment. I wanted to be able to build tools. I wanted to be able to create things for my home or property or whatever. And so I just started doing that, and it created this intermediate learning zone where it wasn't necessary to have perfection or high skill, but I was able to learn and make all the mistakes, or most of them, as many as possible in that area. So instead of where it was really crucial. So I think that's, on the job site, when you recognize that someone needs to learn in a skill or something, you find the area where they can do that and it doesn't ruin the end product, right? And so, if so-and-so needs
to teach them something.
Yeah. So, the common practice is if someone's new on the job, they get the back corner of the property, if it's a fence, that is. And so it's you dig the holes in the back corner where no one's going to see it because that's where you need to learn. And right in front of the house or the road or whatever, then, you might catch me digging a little bit in that area. So
how do you navigate, or how have you navigated as a business owner? Because, even with Michael, I mean, there's not that much age difference. But I mean, you do, like I said, you kind of have been an old soul as long as I've known you, and you have a lot of more experience than a lot of people in this line of work, but you're very young. And I know that you've had people work for you that are a variety of ages, Ron being twice your age, probably.
Yeah, I think Ron just turned 61.
So how have you navigated as a business owner, teaching and coaching as kind of such a young person to people of a variety of ages?
Well, I've been blessed with very humble people that work with me. When someone is willing to work for an idiot who's half their age or even younger at all, and put up with all of their arrogance and foolishness, then they're just incredibly humble. And I know Michael agrees with me about Ron on that particularly.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael as well, as you know, is an incredibly humble person.
It finally happened.
As in lowly and impotent, but of a humble stature. But yeah. So I mean, it's we both worked with my brother-in-law Andrew, who I think has a great sense of humility, and so I don't know that a person as arrogant as I am could work with me. I don't think so. And I have in other business endeavors have had people that were more similar to me in that and didn't have a natural humility, and that usually doesn't work out.
I think if anybody mistook pride in you, I think they're wrong. I think more I see a exuberant amount of confidence in you, not so much pride. So I think that's the distinguishing factor in that people who work for you are probably naturally able to come underneath your wing because of your confidence in the situation, not because you're arrogant. At least from the outside in, that's what
I'd agree with that.
Say.
Well, I believe that there's, as part of my faith, I believe that each one of us is fearfully made in the image of a creator, and that there's parts of that are always there. That he from the beginning, from the womb, like my son Tom, I can see my maker's image in him, and I can also see his image in him that needs some work. And they're very, oftentimes they share a part of him where, arrogance should be confidence, and impatience should be efficiency, and suicidal empathy should be just empathy, and so
Wait,
I think
explain that. What's suicidal empathy versus regular?
Suicidal empathy, I think I heard it on a political podcast, but it's basically where you are so empathetic to someone else that it harms you and the people that depend on you. So suicidal empathy is often seen in like relationships, abusive relationships, where someone is so attached in a feeling and emotional way to someone that's harmful that they are enabling that harmfulness and spreading it to people around them. So you'll see, I guess I was looking for like the weak point of someone who's really like empathetic, because I'm not empathetic naturally. It's not a gift of mine, and so I have to look at people who are, and it's like, well, they're pretty great, but there must be something wrong with them. Well, I guess that would be they're too empathetic. So suicidal empathy being the version of that needs to be redeemed. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that just because I know that I have an arrogant flesh doesn't mean that I need to grovel like a worm. That's not the answer to that. And I think, unfortunately, that's something that was missed by a whole generation of people raising kids and society. And, I certainly haven't got it figured out, and I'm missing many other things. But I do know that, if you have a child that is arrogant, the answer is not to crush that spirit. The answer is to teach them where that confidence was meant to be used for good and for the glory of God. So, I think, I'll receive that. I think there's, but where you see any confidence in me and lack of arrogance is not because that would be the case left to my own devices. That's the work of, someone else in my life and his methods. So,
how did you learn to charge your customers what you're worth? Was that difficult?
Yeah. I think that's one of the most difficult things that all business owners will agree on, unless they're extremely arrogant. Yeah, it was really difficult. Still is to some degree, because oftentimes, I mentioned that one of the things that makes us marketable is we're willing to do things that other people either can't or won't, whether it's on a creative level or a resource level that the resources or the method is not available, and so that makes it hard sometimes to put a number on it, because you don't know. You haven't done it before. It may be something that you can't find a case study for. So I think not charging enough is a good way to learn to charge more. So, when you go to pay, your tab at the lumber yard, or when you go to pay your employees after a job and you look at what's left and it's not, then you're like, oh, that wasn't enough. I think some people don't learn that fast enough, and so you end up not having enough to continue. That certainly would happen to me, aside from the grace of God in certain situations, and I think that's how most people make it through that stage. But unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, but it's an uncomfortable thing when you realize that you just need to charge more. And that if that hurts my customer, then I don't want my customer to be stretched by being in business with me. I want to be in business for people that benefit from my services. And if that means that people who maybe have a tighter budget than what I can work in, then I'm more than happy to provide references. I'm more than happy to help them recognize that fact in as gracious a way as I can. And I think that's an important thing that business owners have to learn, is not necessarily just what you're worth, because some people charge more than what you could look at the result and say, yeah, they're worth this amount, but they just can't do business in another way. And so it becomes a little bit less about the quality of the result or how it compares to other people. But if you can't do business at that rate, then you either have to stop doing business or you have to charge more. And hopefully that means you get better and the quality of your work rises to that level.
Did you see that?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
There was a distinct correlation between, okay, this is how much I need to charge just to get the job done, which means this is how much I'm worth, and then your work changed.
Yeah. Or you see different pools of work developing for you, and you have to decide which one am I going to tailor myself to. And one of those pools is, a higher end, more custom, more relational, intimate interaction with the customer and stuff like that, and requires a more fine-tuned set of skills and tools and resources. And another set is more basic, more mass-produced, faster pace, more competitive with other similar businesses and stuff like that. And so that's not the market that I'm pursuing.
Do you see more success, like margin-wise, as a business owner for those high-end jobs versus? I'm sure that all those other jobs you're talking about, where there's a lot of competition and there's maybe a lot of it, is there more opportunity there where you can make more margin as a business owner, or is the lesser jobs but more custom and more personalized? Is that kind of where more of the margin lies and stuff that like your business is seeking out?
It depends on who you are. So if you are a business owner and you're looking at, building the business as your job, and that's the skill that you have, is managing a business. It's not necessarily attached to the service that the business, provides. Then the more cookie cutter packaged, fast-paced, competitive model is certainly more lucrative. If you are a technician or a craftsman or an artist or something like that, then it's certainly the more custom, intimate, high-end market is for you. So,
and are you to the point now where how much of the business are you working in versus working on?
Well, there's only a couple of us. We 2 years ago I had at the most 12 employees between a couple of different businesses, and now there's just 3 of us. And sometimes they're not always 3 of us on a job. Sometimes it's just 2 of us. Sometimes it's just me, and so that's definitely limited the type of work that we can do and the amount of work that we can do.
Is that by choice?
Yes. Yeah.
So are you more happy than being kind of the craftsman on the job and doing that versus looking to expand the business to a point where you can
Build skyscrapers.
be more like the owner in the situation where you're out doing the marketing, you're out doing the sales, you're running the numbers, and you're seeing the thing through from a 30,000 foot level, versus what you're doing now, where you're in the trenches with your guys. You prefer the latter currently.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, having 12 employees and a couple of businesses is not an empire, right? It's it's peanuts compared to what most business owners aspire to, but it was so much, too much for me, and so it definitely taught me what direction my heart really wants to go, and what I want to do with my time. I don't want to spend my time with reports and taxes and insurances and admin stuff and sourcing labor all the time and high turnover and all of these things. I don't want to spend my time doing that, and that's what people. If you're managing people as your asset versus from a very basic comparison, a hammer and chisel. If you're using a hammer and chisel as your resources versus people as your resources, it's such a vastly different work environment and life that you'll lead. I think that's one of the reasons why these decisions are important, because I'm going to spend more time doing that than anything else except sleeping. And so then if that thing isolates me from my family, takes all my emotional capacity, makes me kind of bitter and jaded towards the human race because I deal with them all the time, then I don't want to be doing that. Now, if you can do that and not have those things happen, which people can, then I think it's a totally reasonable option. But I found myself being, drained of empathy, which I have very little of already, drained of energy, which with 5 kids, you find out you have less than you thought you did.
Yeah.
And drained of attention. You start to not care about what happens on a particular project at that point. And you just, you're just keeping the wheels greased, and you start steamrolling over things. So I certainly didn't, I think I had several conversations with Michael when he worked with me about the difference between like craftsmen and I don't know what the other option is, just people that just, do work, they just get the job done.
Labor.
And I always felt like I was just the guy that got stuff done because I didn't take as much time as craftsmen, and the quality was not as good as a craftsman. But we have turned into that to where now that's the market that we are pursuing. I'm developing my skills and resources to serve those customers. I'm more passionate about those projects, and those are the projects that we're working on now as more nuanced, artistic, custom things.
Yeah, and there's not a lot. I mean, comparatively, there's not a lot of that in our area or in very many areas. I mean, not to bash on other local businesses, but I know like several local fencing companies, they probably just order the gates and the fencing material just in bulk and keep it in a warehouse and have guys install it, which is fine. But yeah, the fact that you can show up on site and the customer has a very specific need and you can custom build a gate for them for their beautiful property on Bainbridge Island or something. I mean, that's hard to come by right now.
Yeah, and I just think it's cooler. I mean, it's not, but that's different for everybody, right? Someone doesn't want to be in the shop crafting a custom entrance for a beautiful property based on all the little nitpicky criteria of their customer. That's, a lot of people, that sounds like hell, right? And so for me, at least right now, it doesn't. For me, that's what I really want to be doing. I want to be designing. I want to be.
That sounds awesome.
It is, and especially when there's not a bunch of other people buzzing around you all the time. It's that you interact with the customer. You kind of try and probe their ideas and their inspiration to figure out how to make that a reality. So. yeah, it's fantastic. And right now we're, I just moved out of a warehouse in an industrial park and out to a rural property where I'm just surrounded by, trees and my stuff and birds and children. Hopefully not while the dangerous, machining and welding is going on. But yeah, to some degree, it's very close to where we live. My wife and kids frequently just wander, in and check on me, and then go off. The property has trails and stream and stuff that they wander back with the dogs and stuff. And so,
dreamy.
Yeah, it really is. And it, each day still has frustrations. And sometimes, she'll bring the kids and they'll walk past the shop and kind of look at me, and she'll tell, that it's not going well, and just keep walking. I catch her out of the corner of my eye off on her. She has a spot that she stops to assess, like, can I approach? And if she decides it's not worth it, then she'll keep on going. So.
Right on. Well, thank you, Jay. I gotta go down to Tacoma. I gotta bail. But where can folks find if they want to get a hold of your company to come out and do some custom projects?
Sure, yeah.
Website, Facebook?
Yeah, farmhandsfence.com. You can see, a small spattering of our work. We don't advertise really at all. It's just word of mouth, and we do have a website there where people can get a sense of what we do and how we can help. But yeah, if you have something that you're maybe concerned that someone isn't going to take the time or doesn't have the ability to make what you want and what you're envisioning become real, that's kind of what we're interested in. It's what we're passionate about.
That's so cool.
And that's the skills and the resources that we are cultivating and have brought together, is basically to help give that extra attention and the design, and make your inspiration become reality instead of just a functionality.
And
cool.
What's your footprint right now? Where are you guys working? Where are you working?
Yeah, we're working basically from Port Townsend to Gig Harbor, kind of that whole swath.
So Kitsap County, Bainbridge Island,
yeah,
a little bit of Jefferson.
Yeah, Kingston, Bainbridge, Poulsbo, Silverdale, Bremerton. That whole, kind of the east side of the Olympic Peninsula all the way down to Gig Harbor. So, yeah, that's not too much of a commute for us. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
brother.
Wasn't gonna pass up my chance at fame and fortune. So.
Yeah, that's coming after this.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah. No, that was this. That was this.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you very much. Please share the video. Have a nice day.